and now you're going to develop 990 residential units plus commercial and light industrial. It's just not a good location. There's major issues about traffic is a major concern for us residents at the Cabrillo neighborhood that this development would be adjacent to. Doris Avenue is already a problem. They're going to put a traffic light in at Doris and Patterson, but that's the very spot that the school district is planning to use the 25 acres for the school. And they're going to widen Doris in this plan to 4 lanes, but there's no mention of widening Doris from Patterson to Victoria. It's only 2 lanes there. And there's a huge irrigation ditch there. It's only mentioned, but nothing about safety as far as that. People are going to get frustrated. They're going to try to pass each other, and cars are going to end up in that ditch, and people are going to die. That is going to be a complete bottleneck right there at Patterson and Doris. If you widen it to 4 lanes to Ventura Road, but you only keep it to 2 lanes to Victoria, Victoria is already impacted by massive traffic during the busiest hours. The noise, it's just a real problem. Our quality of life here in Cabrillo, and we live in a wonderful neighborhood, it's terrific, will be dramatically impacted by this development. I understand that the likelihood is it's going to go forward, but 990 units plus businesses plus light industrial is too much. Parking is going to be a nightmare. Who can afford these kind of units?
Your time
They're
is
going to
up,
have
sir.
multi-families living in 1 unit, and the park.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you. Our next speaker is Paul Wiley.
Mayor, our next speaker, Paul Wiley, has not dialed in and is not available. However, we do have an additional public speaker, Mr. Ray Blettel.
Okay. Ray Patel.
Mr. Blettel. Mr. Blettel, you may unmute by pressing *6.
Is Ray on? Not yet. Okay.
Mr. Blettel, please unmute by pressing *6.
Okay. So right now so members of the public, we have 3 minutes to register or otherwise be recognized for the purpose of providing. We started at 3 minutes, right? Is that, can we?
Mr. Blettel, would you mind reconnecting with us? Thank you.
So we have to wait. This is when I'm going to be now. So now members of the public have 3 minutes to register or otherwise be recognized for the purpose of providing public comments. During the 3 minutes time period, public comments may be taken and the city council or staff may discuss the item, consider or briefly respond to public comments. So we've started at 3 minutes. Mhm. Mhm. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Do we have any additional speakers on items not in the agenda at this time?
Yes, one moment, please.
Thank you. Mhm.
Mr. Blatel? Thank you
Hello?
for calling back, Mr. Blatel. Thank you for trying back. You have 3 minutes to speak, please. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Sorry about that.
Mhm.
Mayor, council members, city staff, and Oxnard citizens. First of all, I'd like to wish everybody a happy new year. Today, I noticed the street sweeper came by our neighborhood, which we all truly appreciated. I also noted that those residents who ignore the no parking signs during the street sweeping schedule were ticketed. That's appropriate if you ask me. We all pay to have our streets and curbs swept, and this can't be accomplished with vehicles parked at the curb during the scheduled sweep days. However, one other thing, the curbs cannot be swept if the sweeper cannot reach the curb. The reason is the trees. That's the trees in the medians. The trees need trimming such that the sweeper can actually access the curb. So please trim the neighborhood trees such that the street sweeper can properly do its job. Thank you very much. And I apologize for the difficulties I had, and thanks for your patience. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Madam Clerk, any additional speakers on this item?
We have one more caller, Mayor. One moment, please.
Okay. Mhm.
Mr. Cesena, please unmute by pressing *6. Mr. Cesena?
Hey,
Yes,
yeah,
thank you. You have 3 minutes to speak, sir. Go ahead.
thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Good evening. I know several of you personally. I'm actually one of the owners that lives on Teal Club Road. Mr. Zaragoza and my mom and I, when he was at the county, have been dealing with, some of the challenges with a lot of the non-conforming buildings on Teal Club Road, primarily the residences that are there now. There are approximately 7 different owners. For countless years, many of those owners have tried to develop their space to add additional homes or get things approved. And time after time, they were denied and told that it simply wasn't safe for them to do so, or it didn't conform to the plan. But the primary reason that they were told that their properties could not be developed was that they were in the flight path. Now that we have, the potential for 900 homes, literally 22 feet from my doorstep, it seems that it's now okay to develop this land when you have these owners that for years have tried doing that and they were not allowed to do so. And it becomes very disheartening because it seems like it boils down to money. In addition, as I was reading in the plan, the existing homes now that are there will be classified as industrial or M1, which makes no sense as to why not allow them to be considered residential. Why would you put or allow these 7 properties that have had homes there as far back as 1940, 1930 to then be classified as industrial, which these people can't use their property for that, and it's not being used for that now. So it's very disheartening to see that so many of us have been denied the ability to add second homes or get approvals to modify our properties and be told that it's unsafe to do so. But now we have these 900 homes that are just 25 feet from us be allowed to do what we haven't been able to do for years. And then on top of that, those of us that are there now to be classified as industrial or manufacturing. It's one of the two, I don't know exactly. And that doesn't even conform to what we have. And I'm hoping that you all can look and maybe fight for us to, at least, if we're not going to be allowed to make some of the changes that we've
Your
been.
time is up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Santana.
Thank you.
Mhm. Madam Clerk, do we have any additional speakers? Okay.
We do
so-
not have any additional speakers. Thank
Thank-
you, Mayor.
Thank you, and we waited all our 3 minutes. So we're going to the next item, and this is item E, the report of the city manager, executive director / secretary. And the item E1 is a COVID-19 update from Director of Emergency Services. The recommendation is that City Council, we're going to take item number 2 before item number 1, and that is to reauthorize the remote teleconference meetings of the legislative body of the city of Oxnard in accordance with Assembly Bill 361. So we'll need a motion to approve item number 2 to continue again with the teleconference. Do
So
I have a
moved.
motion? Okay, who, I can't see you.
Perrello.
Perrello first, but we need a
And
second.
Mayor, I'll make the second, and then I have a comment.
Second, and that's Tehran. Okay, roll call.
He's requesting a comment.
I'm sorry, do you want to make a comment to Councilman Tehran before we vote?
Yes, please.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mhm.
Mr. City Manager, just briefly, for the benefit of the public, would you just give us a very quick synopsis about AB 361 and why we're doing this monthly renewal and what the purpose of this is?
No, I'm actually going to have the city attorney make that explanation. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Tran, Mr. Mayor. AB 361 is the most recent amendment to the Brown Act that covers allowances for remote meetings to be held under certain circumstances. So as stated on the agenda, we are reauthorizing the council's previous findings that have been made to allow these meetings to continue remotely. And the findings are stated on the agenda itself, and they reflect what's required in order to continue these meetings under 361. So I'll just go over those findings. It's the city's COVID-19 comprehensive policy and protocol imposes measures to promote social distancing. The governor's proclaimed state of emergency remains in effect. Ventura County's COVID-19 case rate is still considered widespread community transmission by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the California Department of Public Health. The Ventura County Health Officer has recommended that social distancing measures continue to be practiced throughout Ventura County communities to minimize the spread of COVID-19. And as a result of the emergency, meeting in person would present imminent risks to the health or safety of attendees. And at the time that this agenda was put together and posted, that was before things have become increasingly dire, as the city manager is going to get into in his COVID update with the latest surge. So those findings are even more appropriate at this time. Under the new legislation, this requirement for reauthorization must be satisfied every 30 days. So because of the way meetings sometimes work from month to month, we may have to have this on every agenda. So you'll keep seeing this, if not every meeting, then at least every other meeting.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you. So we have a motion by Councilman Perrello and second by Councilman Tehran. Roll call. And this is an item 2. Mhm.
Councilmember Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Basua,
Aye.
Councilmember Turan,
Yes.
Mayor Zaragoza,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem McDonald,
Aye.
Councilmember Perrello,
Yes.
Councilmember Madrigal. Thank you. Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So now we go back to item 1, receive and file an update from the Director of Emergency Services on COVID-19 local emergency. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy New Year to all. And it's a little bit disheartening that I need to continue to provide COVID updates. But as some would say, it is what it is. So let's get through this. As a reminder, the state of California had extended the state's emergency to last through the end of March of this year. Due to the Omicron surge, the state is redoubling efforts to provide testing sites. There's some information here, but the most important place to get updated information day to day is at the county's website, which is vcrecovers.org. Again, they are rotating these facilities throughout the county, so the information could change. Please, just on a daily basis, if you need to get a test, go to vcrecovers.org to find out the nearest availability that is convenient for you. Likewise, with vaccinations, which are highly encouraged, continue to be available. And the best place to get daily updated information about those facilities is at myturn.ca.gov. Again, please check there. There's also, of course, that information at the county's VC Recovers website. In terms of municipal closures, we're doing what is pretty prevalent across many cities right now in terms of limiting interaction between our staff and the public, but we continue to provide as many services as we can remotely. So all this information is available on the city's website, but you can check with regard to if you have questions for billing and licensing. There's the city's website as well as the phone numbers. Again, these services continue to be available remotely, billing and licensing, community development aspects, as well as our library. So I'm not going to read all this out. Just know that it's available on the city's website. This is just a friendly reminder. Next, we continue with the municipal redistricting process. If you recall, the batting order was the state and the county, and now cities are due, and I believe it's due ultimately in April, but we have upcoming meetings. We've got a public hearing, of course, in a few nights this Thursday, January 6th, beginning at 6 p.m. These will all be virtual, of course. Following that, we'll have one on a Saturday morning, January 22nd. And then we'll come back to a Tuesday night, February 1st. And then the final public hearing we expect to be Wednesday, February 16th. The mapping tool is online. A couple people have already played around with that and to the point where they've been able to submit maps. We'll preview some of those on Thursday evening. But as a reminder, all maps from our community are due by Monday, February 7th by 5 p.m. So that's the update on our redistricting process. Another reminder, and this is in compliance with a state mandate about organics recycling. So it's a lot of information on this slide, but in essence, starting this year, we've gone to picking up all 3 carts that people have every week. The premise here is the state mandated several years ago, and this applies to all cities, all communities in California, that we divert organic waste, so food scraps and the like, out of our landfills and into facilities where they can be recycled. So how we're handling here, of course, is for the time being until there's a better process or better technology. We're asking people to bag their food scraps and then put it in with your green yard waste container. And again, you can put that out every week now versus every other week. So again, that started. We have some time. The state nor the city expects this to be done perfectly, correctly from the get-go. So we have time for people to become accustomed to this new system. And we certainly look forward to improving compliance as the year goes forward. If you have questions, there are information available again on the city's website. And this one specifically is oxnard.org/environmental-resources. Or you can simply call our phone number, 805-385-8060. So good for the environment and a new custom for us, a new habit for us to learn. Next, the Oxnard employee pipeline. We're starting our next cohort in a few weeks, so people can find out about how they can participate. This is a relatively new partnership we have between the city and Oxnard College and our Chamber of Commerce. The premise here is to provide just a few classes for our residents to get sufficient training so that they can become employable by the many good employers that we have here in the city of Oxnard. The goal, of course, is to get people into better paying jobs, especially those that provide healthcare. So that website is oxnard.org/employee pipeline. It's also a phone number, 805-385-7407. Or you can even email Maria Santana at oxnard.org. And then just a quick related note, before the end of the year, we talked about an effort at Oxnard College. The Oxnard College president, Dr. Luis Sanchez, had made a request to the Ventura County Community College District Board of Trustees for some additional funding to bring additional classes onto the Oxnard College campus. We talked about that. I know the mayor and some of the council members spoke or emailed their board of trustees at their board meeting. And I'm happy to report back that that request was approved. So as a result, Oxnard College will be able to add 100 more classes to the Oxnard College campus, making it more convenient for our residents. So thank you for that effort to Dr. Sanchez, the president of Oxnard College. And then finally, in our ongoing effort to support our local businesses in their long recovery from the COVID pandemic, here are the recommendations from the city council. So we'll leave this slide up. And I would like to say, of course, given the surge that we're in right now, we strongly recommend takeout, which is something we've all become very good at during the span of this pandemic. So with that, I'm going to end here, and we're going to turn it over to city council for, oh wait, do we have the 3 minutes? No, we don't. All right, so next we're going to move ahead to item F. I'm covering for the mayor just for a moment. City council. Yeah, so we're going to start. So, right, I'm gonna.
I have a question
and call on Councilmember Perrello.
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation. I've had questions from people that live in apartment complexes and people that have homes that did not have green waste containers. I know they've been able to get answers from the city, but possibly somebody could share that information. What happens for apartment complexes that don't have green waste containers now to take the food scraps, and residents that did not have a green barrel? What will be done to accommodate those residents in our community? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, council member. So very quickly, they can call the Environmental Services Office. And if you're a resident and you don't have a green waste bin, we're happy to provide one. And with the apartment building, same thing. If the apartment building owner and or manager or even a resident can alert us, we can arrange for them to get one. Thank you.
Councilmember Tehran.
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Mhm.
I'll share my local business first. You can see I have Andy's Auto Repair located at 105 North Oxnard Boulevard, which is the corner of First Street and Oxnard Boulevard. I have a car that's a 1994. It's not even from this century anymore. They were well equipped to do the smog check for it and gave it a once over also. And just a really nice staff there. And I appreciate the help they had. And if you have needs for auto repair or smog check, as is required by a number of vehicles in the state of California, that's one place you can take into consideration. All right, just very quickly, my council member comments and updates. I want to wish all of my council colleagues, the mayor, and our staff and the public a happy new year. I know that we're off to, not the most positive start as far as COVID numbers go, but if we all do our part, we can continue to navigate this as we have been for the last couple of years. And I do want to reiterate something that was mentioned already by the city manager regarding the reduction temporarily of face-to-face services with the general public and some of the frontline services we have at the city. Just to confirm, the city's not closing. The people are not getting paid time off. Services are continuing. We just want folks to remember that we can't have many of our high contact, high traffic points at the city be a point of contraction or spreading of the coronavirus or the variant that we have right now. So not just Oxnard, but City of Ventura, County of Ventura, you'll see that they're also following suit because of the way the numbers are going. And I bring that up because if you go to venturacountyrecovers.org, it's all one word, venturacountyrecovers.org, you can see the data there for all of the positive cases and the tests and everything that they measure. And I just want to share very quickly for Oxnard specifically, as of yesterday, January 3rd, across the county, Ventura County, apples to apples, the per capita positive test rate for Ventura County is 890 for every 100,000 people. So 890 in the last 14 days. The 93035 zip code is 915, so above the county average. 93036 is 1,065, so well above the county average. 93030 is actually a little bit below at 853, and 93033 is below at 584. So the 93035 and 93036 zip codes are currently experiencing positive test rates at higher the rate than the rest of the county as far as averages go. So please remember to do what you have to do, keep yourself safe, socially distance, and minimize going out and contacting other folks. So just wanted to say that. And my last comment is a huge thank you to our staff, especially our public works staff and our 311 crew, and the residents who reported the many potholes that showed up after our recent rainstorms. I was browsing through 311 and was happy to see potholes being reported, and happy to hear from Public Works that they were on it with the crew to get out there and get those fixed as soon as they can. So thank you to everyone, every side of that equation. There's a lot of work to do, but we're all working together to get it done. So thank you very much, Mayor. Those are my comments, and we'll move on. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember. Mayor Pro Tem McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity. I selected for my business this time around La Dulce Vida in Heritage Square. And I'm just praying for the day that we can go back to restaurants and enjoy ourselves and be with other people. And I'm hoping that comes within this year. This is a wonderful restaurant, wonderful food, nice atmosphere. Secondly, one of the other hats that I wear, like many council members, is I sit on the Gold Coast Transit District Board. A lot of us have ancillary duties on different boards. And I thank my peers. They have selected me to be the chair of the board for this upcoming year, so it should be a good year. And we too are struggling with the pandemic in terms of our drivers, trying to keep them safe, keep our passengers safe. But I'm hoping there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel this year. And finally, I'd like to offer a shout out to Mr. Martin Erickson, who was a deputy city manager for several years here and worked in other departments here for a while. Friday, I expect that the Ventura County Transportation Commission will ratify his appointment as the executive director of VCTC. Well-deserved job. I think Martin will do an excellent job for us, and as VCTC, which is another panel I sit on, and also for the county of Ventura with his leadership. So congratulations, Martin. Looking forward to working with you into the future. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, before we go with Councilman Basua, please commend Martin Erickson. I worked with him for many, many years also at VCTC, and in fact, he was a city employee for many, many years, excuse me. So a good choice for VCTC. Thank you. Councilwoman Basua?
Thank you, Mayor.
Mhm.
I first want to wish everybody a happy new year. Hope everybody is staying healthy. My recommendation this time around is Tacos Cuernavaca. Excellent Mexican food. Their sopes are the best, along with their horchata and agua de Jamaica. They are located at 1801 Ventura Boulevard, what I call the Olive Garden Shopping Center. It is a local mom and pop shop. So if anybody is in the area, if you're going to Costco and are in a mood for Mexican food, please stop by and enjoy some of their delicious food. Last but not least, this weekend, there is going to be a beach cleanup through the Coastal Keepers, which is one of our local groups here in the city of Oxnard. Special thanks to the city of Oxnard for providing resources for this cleanup. If anybody is interested in coming out and spending a, probably a chilly, cold kind of day out at the beach, dress warmly. They will be out there between 7:30 and 11 a.m. You can park in Lot C in the city of Port Hueneme, and I hope to see some people out there. And of course, we will be following COVID protocols. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Perrella?
Thank you very much. I'm wishing the very best for everyone, including the world, for the upcoming new year. We've gone through a heck of a year. I wish you the very best. The business that I'm pushing this time is Casa Grande Cafe. It's located at the intersection of Richmond and Mountain View. A lot of people won't know where this area of Oxnard is because a lot of people don't go into the industrial area. Ladies and gentlemen, we all brag about the strawberries around here. We brag about the open fields and the farms. If you go into the industrial area, you will see the amount of produce and everything being shipped out, how it gets from our fields to the rest of the markets in this nation and across the world. You get a chance to see that and experience it if you go into the industrial area. And while you're there, you'll get one very good meal from this outfit. It is Mexican and American food. I've also got to tell you, they serve a tremendous amount of meals that I'd never heard of before. And one that I was extremely pleased to try was they had goat, and it was excellent. This place is very good. Well worth the try. The Perez family, and as a minor point, something I think very significant to this council, it's been there since 1979. I believe older than some of the members on the council. The second point that I'd like to bring up is I'm being asked numerous times when I go into markets and things, and people recognize me as a councilman. And some of the clerks in the markets or at the drugstores are asking, what happened to the funding that the city unanimously approved for the people that put it to hazardous pay, selling the food and the taking care of the people's needs for drugs at stores? And I try to explain to them. I hope that we can have sometime come back an explanation from the city of what's going on and why things are moving slowly, what area, what organizations are dragging their feet, because I know the city unanimously approved this, and the city wants to make sure these funds and these people are made whole. The city is not backing off on its word. The city's word means something. A couple of more points. The public comments that were made, Mr. Blattel and the other individual, I didn't catch his name, about Teal Club Road. I appreciate those comments. Mr. Blattel is right about the trees and the medians, because we have the same problem in the area that I live in with the garbage trucks. Now, 2 points I'd like to bring up, both of them not very nice. In the recent past, I've asked about a park. I've asked about 2 lots that have turned into dumping grounds within the city boundaries. One at Cortland and Hueneme Road, and the other at Rose and Ventura Boulevard. The city of Oxnard, through whatever methods, and the property owners at the Rose and Ventura Boulevard were able to get the property cleaned and fenced. But the property at Cortland and Cortland and Wainimi Road is a pigsty. Now, unfortunately, you know, a pigsty has specific meanings, but this pigsty is located right next to a gem in the city of Oxnard, the new housing that we had built for veterans that's located between Cortland and Saviors Road. I've got photographs that I intend to give to the city attorney so that he can share them with the council to avoid any Brown Act issues, because I believe we need to put upon our staff, who was working diligently with extra efforts to put upon the owners of these properties to clean them up. No neighborhood, specifically in this case, South Winds, and no city, specifically in this case, Oxnard, should allow this type of thing to take place in our city. The last item, I have brought up at the Public Works Committee, which I chair, a question about garbage and overflowing containers. Today, when I double checked to see that the property that I'm talking about just spoke about, I went down the alley between Cortland and Perkins Road, and the alley that is adjacent to the South Winds Park. The dumpsters are overflowing. The dumpster enclosures are full of trash. The excess trash is dumped on the ground adjacent to the dumpsters. This is not a comment on the residents that live there, as much as is it a comment on the individuals that own the properties. They need to have more trash pickups. People are attempting to put the trash in the dumpsters. When it's full, they leave it on the ground or pile it up, and it's a feeding frenzy for the seagulls and other vermin in the area. This has to be addressed. And I'm sure there are areas throughout the city of Oxnard where our council members can find areas that they need to put upon the residents and the property owners of these units. They need to have extra pickup days. There is no reason people need to live with this kind of stuff. And to compound it, it is next to the South Winds Park and the elementary school. These kids see this every day. Thank you, Mary, for for letting me speak. I have one more thing. I want to thank an employee who's moved on, Mr. Isidore Figueroa and Mr. Roger Brooks. Want to wish them the well in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I'm sure that the staff is really working on that item in South Oxnard. And I think it's important that potentially that we can take care of that item and maybe fence it off or do something with it. So really important item that we need to clean up. Thank you. Councilwoman Lopez.
Thank you, Mayor, and a Happy New Year to everyone. Glad to see everyone back, and wish everyone a very healthy and prosperous new year. I want to start off by certainly supporting Councilmember Perello's comments about the lots, specifically and especially in the Southlands neighborhood, which certainly have been an issue, and hope that we can work as a city, both residents and on the administration side, to support and clean up some of these areas that impact our neighborhoods. So thank you for bringing that up. And I wanted to talk about my business recommendation, which is a dental office. Very important to keep our teeth healthy. So I want to recommend Carson & Carson, who are a family-owned dental office. They've been in business for over 50 years now, and local Ventura County residents, their staff, their team is made up of Oxnard residents as well, provide really good service. So if anyone needs to get a checkup, go down to downtown Oxnard in that area. And with that, thank you, Mayor. I look forward to what this year will bring for us and to continue working and serving our residents in Oxnard.
Thank you so much, Councilman Madrigal.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Mayor. Happy New Year to everyone. I'll just keep it short. this evening. My business recommendation was Big Straw, Big Straw Boba specifically. They have 3 locations here in Ventura County. Actually, I'm sorry, 4 locations in Ventura County, 2 of which are here in Oxnard, locally grown. I picked the original Big Straw, which is on Saviors Road. I remember going there probably close to a decade ago and being amazed at the quality of their products. They have wonderful boba, and if you're at the Center Point Mall, by all means, please visit Big Straw Boba. Other than that, that's it, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay, and council members, I'm going to take my 3 minutes here, and I'd just like to share a couple of comments with the council members, staff, and members of the audience. I'd just like to share that I just have a brief overview of the past year that we just happened. 2021 was a rough year with this pandemic of COVID-19. And members of the audience, we're still continue with the COVID-19. So please continue to stay safe, wear your mask, do the 6 foot apart if possible, and wash your hands. And I know that you see me here in the council chambers and the dais without a mask, but our closest staff is about probably 20, 25 feet away from me. So make sure that if you see me without a mask, it's because of that. As we turn the page on 2021, I'd like to share some of the accomplishments in the city of Oxnard. And there were numerous projects and accomplishments. The city council had many accomplishments in 2021, 25. And again, as part of the priorities, I'd like to reiterate the 5 priorities that we have here for the city of Oxnard for the next 3 years. Number 1, organizational effectiveness. Number 2, quality of life. 3, economic development. 4, public safety. And 5, infrastructure and natural resources. And I know that every single department in the city is just doing excellent work for our residents. And I believe that I hear that 98% of the people that call me and talk to me say that the city's doing a great job. However, some of the most visible work is in the infrastructure and natural resources priorities, such as improving our roads. And in fact, I've had people complain now about detours because we're fixing our roads, which is really, those are good complaints. Infrastructure, replacing our old pipes in Colonia and South Oxnard. Our parks, they're being mowed, maintained, our parks on a regular scheduled basis. Trees are being trimmed. And in fact, we had a report the other day in one of the committees, and we had a nice real report on the different types of trees that we have in Oxnard. We're planning our water supply, keeping our public spaces clean and safe. And we're also securing long-term financial sustainability and employee training, as mentioned by our city manager, also under the organizational effectiveness priorities section. I also want to thank our police and fire department for the great efforts in keeping our community safe. And also our utilities, our refuse, our water, our wastewater, our recreation department, our community development staff for working diligently to expedite the permit process. I know many months ago we were having trouble with the permit process, but now it's working much, much better. And of course, there's numerous other city departments that I have not mentioned, they're working diligently to help our residents here in Oxnard. And once again, I want to thank our city council, our residents, our city employees for helping continue to make Oxnard a great city to live in. And finally, we're going to have a great year in 2022. And this is a year of the tiger. What does a year of the tiger mean? Probably for our residents to understand. The Chinese zodiac tells us that we're entering the year of the tiger. And this is an animal that represents strength and courage. And I believe that our city council, our staff, and our residents will give us a strength and courage to continue to work together for the safe and healthy city of Oxnard. Thank you for that, Mr. City Manager. Thank you. That's all I have. So our next item is the review of the information and consent item. And we have one speaker on this item, but before we continue, item number 1, we have the city clerk. Item number 1, it says we like to approve the December 6th minutes and also defer the December 7th. We're going to pull that item to be revised. So we're going to vote only on December 6th and revise the December 2nd meeting for our next meeting. So we do have one speaker for this item, and we're going to call him at this time, and that's Debbie Mitchell.
Miss Debbie Mitchell, you may unmute by pressing *6. Debbie Mitchell? Please unmute.
Okay, let me see. Do we have Debbie?
She's not available at this time,
Not
Mayor.
available? Okay, council members, we have items 1 through 8, and we have Councilmember Perrello, followed by Councilmember Turan. You have any
Mayor,
questions?
I will start the 3-minute timer for public speakers for this item.
Yes. Okay, so Councilmember Perrello?
Yes, number 3 and number 4. And I would also like to add that I received a email from Mr. and Mrs. Jordan on item 4 in support of it. They were not able to attend.
So you said 3 and 4?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Councilman Turan?
Thank you, Mayor. Same items, I3 and I4.
Okay, so let's go ahead.
I'm sorry, this is Debbie Mitchell.
Okay, Ms. Mitchell, you have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay, we have our speaker going to take a 3
Please
minutes.
go ahead.
Sorry
Go
about
ahead,
that.
Debbie.
Happy New Year to all of you, and thank you, Mayor Zaragoza and Council. The item that I was wanting to speak on is item number 1.4, and that is the Pilaster project, the budget appropriation.
Okay.
And a little history on this that I felt is important because it is a large expenditure from the general budget, general fund. It is the idea that this project was originally approved in February 2020, and the amount taken from the fund from the Waterways Assessment District completely zeroed out our balance for that fiscal year. And I do know that the over expenditures, the unanticipated expenditures, many of those were due to COVID and the construction delays due to getting the concrete to the location, along with some engineering issues that were unanticipated, and one homeowner issue that was also unanticipated. So we're very grateful for this being cleared up so that we can move on to our next one. And our hope is that we will soon get a CFD that will assist in funding further infrastructure repairs to the seawalls. And we're working on that and trying desperately to reconnect and get that in gear. But I'm very grateful to the City Council for this, and I'm very grateful to the city and the engineering staff for their work on continuing this Pilaster project that is very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie Mitchell. Okay, then do we have any other speakers on this item?
We do not have any additional speakers,
Okay.
Mayor. Thank you.
And we took our 3 minutes, so we have Councilmember Perrello, followed by Turan.
Okay,
On item 4.
on item 4, specifically, I want to thank Ms. Mitchell for taking the time to explain some of the situations going on. And again, Ms. Jordan for sending the email to me, which wanted to be known that she's included in this. This is an issue that is very important to not just this area of Oxnard, but the entire city. As Ms. Mitchell mentioned, the city has committed to an amount, but the rest is up to the homeowners. Ms. Mitchell and the group that she is with are doing their very best to get the homeowners all in one place, all in agreement, so that we can go forward with the improvements to this. And again, so that we don't forget, the reason we need to do this is because the seawalls have reached their life expectancy, And in a natural disaster, at the time they were built, the standards are different than the standards are now. And we could have a major calamity in that area if this is not addressed. So I'm totally supportive of item 4. And I appreciate the speaker, the public caller who called in. She's carrying a lion's share of the weight for that entire neighborhood. And I happen to represent that neighborhood, but ladies and gentlemen, in that neighborhood, you spread the weight out over many hands and the job goes much easier. Please remember that.
Thank you. You want to take the other item too, Councilman Perrello?
Okay, thank you very much.
Mhm.
The other item that I have is 3. And the only reason I asked this question is, and I did listen to the public, I did listen to the safety committee. When we're buying these trucks, and to the credit of the fire chief, he mentioned that the truck is 1/2 of the cost of the items because the boxes or the units that are specialty items are going to be added to the new truck. And my question was, why don't they take the ones off the old truck and put them on the new truck and save half the price? And there may be a reason. The second is, I understand these will be going into reserves. I have had comments from people that serve on the Measure O oversight that they are continually being asked to approve, or it's already been spent, but asking as Measure oversight to approve more money going into the fire department for equipment. And if this older equipment that is going to be serviced out now goes into reserves, I want it understood that in the future, when that older equipment gets more miles on it and becomes much more older, we're not looking to get brand new equipment to replace the reserves. We only do it when the new replacement equipment, which we're approving right now, ages out to a time that it's considered way past due to be changed out. I hope that I'm correct in that. And if not, I hope the fire chief will correct me. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure that the fire chief has took those notes. Councilmember Tehran.
Thank you, Mayor. Since we're on I3, I'll start with that one if that's all right.
Okay.
In regards to the vehicles we're looking to purchase, or the fire department's looking to purchase, this came to Finance and Governance, and I appreciate the time to answer these questions. And I'm just hoping to have this explained for the public who are watching tonight. And I know Councilmember Perrello touched on it a little bit, but perhaps Chief Colamarino can touch on it as well. We are, just to confirm, purchasing these trucks, these vehicles, but that's only half of the work purchasing them. The second expense comes in the adding of the equipment people see when it hits the road, which is like the panel boxes and lights and sirens and radios and things like that. I just hoping that's correct. Is that correct, Chief?
And Councilman Tehran, I know he's going to speak, but I think I remember a little bit that some of that equipment was outdated, and especially the radios and so forth, they had to be updated. But we'll have the fire department go ahead and answer those questions.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the council. Councilmember Tehran, this is Assistant Chief Colamarino. To answer your question first, and then I'll see if I can answer Councilmember Perrello's questions as well. The vehicles, well, first, can I just get you to, there was a lot there. Can you repeat your last question for me, please?
Yes, and really it's just, can you walk us through this process? We purchased the trucks, but they're not road ready yet for the fire department, correct? Can you tell us?
Correct. So what we're purchasing first is what are known as 8 cab and chassis. And it's basically the crew cab part of the vehicle, and then an open chassis. And then the remaining, basically it's approximately $67,000 per unit after that. That is to put the command chassis on the back of the pickup truck, to outfit it with cabinetry, lights and sirens, and some radios. And as far as the radios go and the equipment from some of the older vehicles that these are replacing, several of the older vehicles that these were replacing are the equipment was outdated, or they just didn't have it. They weren't purchased with that in the first place. We're replacing vehicles that actually weren't the best purchase when we got them, some of them almost 15 years ago. So once we receive the cab and chassis, then a vendor will be identified and we'll give bids to do what we call the upfitting or the customizing of the work. of the remainder of the vehicles.
Great, thank you very much. And that's just important to me to have that explained for folks so that when they read the staff report and see that ultimately all in, this is going to be around $900,000 when they're ready to hit the road. People aren't thinking, how are we buying F-350s for $100,000 each? How is that possible? It's because that retrofitting or the upfitting, as you had mentioned, is almost literally double the price of the actual chassis and cab itself. So thank you for explaining that. The last question I have regarding fire is we're purchasing these vehicles now to replace vehicles that are going into reserve or being repurposed for other reasons. Do we have an estimate, just based on history, about how long we can expect these new vehicles we're purchasing to be in service?
Yes. There's no standard, no recommendation by the National Fire Protection Association for this type of vehicles. We do have standards for our other capital apparatus, fire engines and ladder trucks. But for this type of vehicle, there is no standard, but our experience shows that we should get a minimum of 10 years of frontline service. And then based on how hard the vehicles are used and the wear and tear on them, generally anywhere from 3 to 5 years of reserve service. And then when vehicles go into reserve service, we don't strip equipment off of reserve vehicles because they have turnkey ready to operate as a reserve vehicle. So when they go into, they could go into reserve service for, again, about vehicle. It's a cab and chassis and then a purposes within the fire department or within the city, because we'll have a cab and chassis that you could put a flatbed on, or maybe even a truck bed or something like that. So I see us getting a long time of use out of all 8 of these vehicles.
Great, thank you very much. Those are my questions for I3, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilmember Tran, if I could, I'd like to also clarify something for Chief Hamilton, and that was in the Finance and Governance Committee. Chief Hamilton misspoke and said that the vehicles were going to be on F-150 chassis. And just in case anybody remembers that was a mistake on Chief Hamilton's part. They are F-350 chassis, as the staff report says. But in the chief's defense, when we first started this project, the vehicles we thought were going to be 150s. They just weren't capable enough in that configuration.
Great, thank you for that as well.
Thank you
And
for the clarification.
if I can do I4 as well, Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. And I'm not sure if Mr. Wolf or Ms. Arnaud would take these, but just a couple of quick questions for I4. And thank you to Ms. Mitchell for speaking and those who mailed in their comments regarding this. And I'm wondering if in the staff report, it refers to some unforeseen circumstances that caused delays. Can we get just a little bit of an elaboration on what that was for unforeseen circumstances in this work?
Good evening, Councilmember Turan. I'll have our city engineer, Ms. Arnaud, provide that. Thanks.
Hi there, Councilmember Turan, Mayor, other members of the council. Tatiana Arnaud, city engineer, speaking here. And to answer Councilmember Turan's question, so the major unforeseen circumstances that we ran into during this construction work was the need for additional dive work across the board throughout the entire project, and other project delays that resulted essentially from one particular disruptive resident that I believe Ms. Mitchell alluded to earlier, and other unforeseen extensive deterioration at several of the pilasters that were not necessarily anticipated, but were discovered after some of the demolition work had occurred. Hope that answers your question.
It does, thank you. And my last questions here, it's just a quick 2-part one. The first part is, what is the expected service life for these pilaster jackets? And then is there any kind of assurance period or warranty period for the work that's been done?
Yes, those are great questions, Councilmember Turan. So the expected service life for these jackets are 25 years. And per our contract documents, we do have a 1-year warranty as of the notice of completion date, which is typically held as a performance bond. So hopefully that answers those questions.
It does, yes. Thank you very much. Those are my questions, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Arno, and thank you, Ms.
Thank you, Councilman. For the Fire Chief, you had your hand up. Do you have additional information you'd like to share with us?
Mr. Mayor, sorry, that was a mistake on my part.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for the information. Okay, so council members, we have consent items 1 through 8. And of course, you know, the first item with the city clerk, as we're only approving December 6th special meeting minutes, and we're going to pull 7 for some revision. So do we need a motion to approve?
I will move to approve these items with the stated modification of pulling the December 7th minutes.
Okay. We got a first by Councilman Turan, and we need a second.
Second.
Okay, second by Councilwoman Lopez. Roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem McDonald,
Aye.
Councilmember Perrello,
Yes.
Councilmember Basua,
Aye.
Councilmember Madrigal,
Aye.
Mayor Zaragoza,
Aye.
Councilmember Turan,
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, and we've already used up our 3 minutes on this item. So our next item is a public hearing. It's for January the 4th, 2022 City Council. This is item J1, the DMV Oxnard Field Office Drainage Easement Vacation. And this is the time and place to set for a public hearing on item J1, Community Development Department. The subject is a DMV Oxnard Field Office Drainage Easement Vacation, Planning and Zoning PZ permit number 21-660-02, easement vacation, a resolution to vacate 240-foot wide drainage easements totaling approximately 24,600 square feet located at 4050 South Saviors Road. The recommendation is that City Council conduct a public hearing to, number 1, find the project exempt from the environmental review pursuant to California Environmental Quality Act CEQA guidelines, section 15061B3, and 2, adopt a resolution to vacate its right, title, and interest in the 240-foot wide drainage easements totaling approximately 24,600 square feet, crossing the 2 parcels located at 4050 South Saviors Road, and 3, authorize the mayor to sign a quitclaim deed releasing the city's authority / or rights to access drainage easement to the state of California for parcels 219-0-110-355 and 219-0110-405. And we start off with the city clerk certification of publication and any written communications, if any. Madam Clerk?
Mayor Zaragoza, there was a legal notice for this public hearing published in the Vida newspaper on December 16th and also on December 23rd, 2021, and the city clerk's office has not received any written communications on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So in accordance with Measure M, posted on video, a video presentation regarding this item and are available to answer any questions or brief clarification questions the council may have before we take any public testimony on this item. The council will then deliberate after the public hearing has been closed. Do we have any questions from city council members at this time? Okay, Councilman Perrello?
Yes, I appreciate the presentation. I appreciate the video presentation, but it sparked a very big question in my mind. It was mentioned in 1940, Irrigation District Number 3 was created, and then Irrigation District Number 3 moved into something else. We have had problems getting information on Irrigation District Number 1 and 2 with respect to water that flows through the drains going into the Edison Canal, potentially polluting the Channel Islands Harbor. Were we able to get any information, or are there any actual representatives for this Irrigation District Number 3?
Okay, let me see. Vito is who's,
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Mr. Joe Pearson, our senior planner, is
Okay.
the lead on this project.
go ahead. Mm. Go ahead, Perrella, the question you had for,
So, Mr. Perrella, this is city attorney. If I could, that is these are different districts that you're talking about. And while your question is a valid question, it's not related to this agenda item. This is for a particular easement for a separate district, old district that no longer exists than the other two that you referenced. So that's a different matter for discussion, and staff could look at that and we can get back to you on that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fisher. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Any other questions, council members? Okay, if not, then now I'm going to open the public testimony portion of this public hearing. And members of the public are invited to sign up to speak on this item on the city's website. And any person who did not sign up, you may do so now by following the instructions posted on the agenda for this meeting in the city's website, oxnard.org, city meetings. And the speakers have 3 minutes to speak on this item. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers on this item?
Mayor, we currently do not have any public speakers. However, I will start the 3-minute timer. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to start off at 3 minutes on this item, and then we'll go from there. Madam Clerk, any additional speakers on this item?
No, Mayor, we do not have any additional speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So we don't have any additional speakers on this item, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Council members, I'll entertain a motion at this item, at this time.
I'll move the recommended action.
Okay, first by Councilman Perrello. We need
I
a
will
second.
second.
Second by Councilman Basua. Roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem McDonald,
Aye.
Mayor Zaragoza,
Aye.
Councilmember Perrello,
Yes.
Councilmember Madrigal,
Aye.
Councilmember Basua,
Aye.
Councilmember Tehran,
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Our next item is a public hearing for January the 4th, 2022, City Council. The item is J2 is Encanto Homes subdivision. This is a time and place set for the public hearing on item J2, Community Development Department. Subject is Encanto Homes subdivision, request for approval of planning and zoning permit, PZ number 20-30004, tentative tract map number 6054 as modified by PZ number 21-550-03, a major modification for the proposed 27 home subdivision on 4.1 acre site located at 1101 and 111 West Second Street and 1101 West First Street, filed by Henry Casillas on behalf of the Oxnard Union High School District, property owner at 451 West Fifth Street in Oxnard, California. The recommendation is that the City Council conduct a public hearing and, number one, find that the project will be exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, pursuant to Section 15332 in infill development projects of CEQA guidelines, and to adopt a resolution approving the planning and zoning permit number 20-300-04, tentative tract map number 6054 as modified by PZ number 21-550-03, a major modification subject to certain findings and conditions. And we start off with the city clerk's certification and publication and any written communications, if any. Madam Clerk.
Mayor Zaragoza, there was a legal notice for this public hearing published in the Vida newspaper on December 23rd, 2021. The city clerk's office has not received any written communications on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now, in accordance with Measure M, we start off with staff posted a video presentation regarding this item, and now staff and the applicant are available to answer any questions or any brief clarifying questions the council members may have before we take any public testimony in this item. Council will deliberate after the public hearing has been closed. Now I'm going to open the public hearing portion of this public.
Mayor, before we proceed, I may have a conflict here, and I need to ask Mr. Fisher. Mr. Fisher, I apologize for springing this at the last minute, but I probably live about 150 yards away from this proposed project area. And with FPPC expanding the area of influence is kind of clear as mud as to whether I'm conflicted or not. So, Mr. Fisher, can you offer me some guidance?
I believe that puts you within the inner band where you are a little clearer than mud that you should recuse yourself from this matter.
So we'll recuse yourself, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to recuse myself then on this item.
Thank you. Okay, now I'm going to open the public testimony portion of the public hearing. And members of the public were invited to sign up to speak on this item on the city website. And a person who did not sign up may do so now by following the instructions posted on the agenda for this meeting and at the city's website, oxnard.org, city meetings. And the speakers have 3 minutes to speak on this item. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers on this item? And I see that we have one speaker, and that is Barbara Mackey Ortiz.
Yes, Mayor, we do have a speaker. One moment, please.
Thank you. Mhm. And we'll start at 3 minutes. Mhm.
Barbara Macri Ortiz.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Good evening, Mayor Zaragoza and council members. My name is Barbara Macri Ortiz. I'm here speaking on behalf of my clients, Mark and Patty Sanchez, who are the owners of the property on First Street. The reason you have a modification of this project before you is because after it went through the planning commission, it was discovered that there was a property line issue. A little background, the school district had the adult school there back in 1983, 84 when the housing on First Street was built. And they had the adult school, the people used to go through the Sanchez yard to kind of cut out and not have to wait to go through the alley. And it got a little bit dangerous because Sanchez had 3 young kids at the time. Also, people from First Street would come down and cut through the Sanchez property in order to reach the alley. So as a result of that complaint and some negotiations with the school district, they came in and they built a fence to prevent their students from crossing into the Sanchez property. And at the time, they placed the fence not exactly parallel to the property, or it wasn't on the property line. It was more into the school district's property. And the fellow at the time told Mark that, you know, this is extra land. You go ahead and use it any way you want. So over the years, Mark actually extended his driveway into that area and has always considered that his property. So when we saw the project, the lawn of one of the new homeowners would be sitting on the driveway. So I really appreciate Henry Casillas and the architect for their willingness and cooperation and working to resolve the issue. And so we have done that, and they will be doing a lot line adjustment, and the school district will be giving us an easement so that you know, Mark can continue as he has, considered to be the owner of that. I think it was like 126 square feet. It's not a lot of land, but it's a lot of land if it's going to impact your driveway and your parking, as we all know, parking. So anyhow, that's what I want to say, and I want to thank the planning staff for their efforts as well. It was kind of a curve that was thrown in at the last minute, but I think it's been resolved satisfactorily, and
Your
we're
time is up.
pleased. So
Thank
thank
you,
you very
Barbara.
much, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any other speakers on this item?
We do not have any additional speakers. Thank you, Mayor.
No other speakers on this item? Then if not, then I'm going to close the public hearing. And council members, do we entertain a motion on this item? Councilman Turan.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a couple of questions, if that's all right. And I'm not
Yes.
sure if staff or Mr. Casillas might be the ones to address this. I live in the Fremont South neighborhood, and this is an item I want to thank Mr. Casillas for bringing forward to the neighborhood council just over a year ago, and you know, presenting initial ideas and thoughts to the residents who then gave feedback. I did have one resident who had some questions to relay that I thought were worth bringing forward. So I just wanted to share those. The first is, and it's possibly a question that the school district need to answer, but it says, how soon does the school district plan on finishing complete removal of the existing structures and materials from the old adult school site?
Is that question that for Casillas or for staff?
Do we have anyone who might have that?
Probably Vito.
I can answer that if you'd like.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Joel Kirschenstein. Good evening, everyone, and a healthy and a safe new year. It's going to be a tough year, and I think we'll all get through it. On that particular question, approximately half of those relocatables have been removed. The rest of them are in the process of being removed, and we are also having a discussion with city staff on a possible cooperation for the relocation of 2 of those items over to another site that the district has leased to the city that was over on River Park for an interim bus storage facility. So there's quite a bit going on with those, but I would assume that all the relocatables will be gone in about 3 weeks, from what I could get from the company who's been contracted to remove them.
So you're estimating by the end of the month? Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kirchenstein, for that. There's just 2 more questions. The first is, this is possibly for staff. It's in regards to, they're no longer being programming there by the district. Now there seems to be a slight increase in illegal dumping happening behind the property in the alley. And just hoping that as time goes on here, as we finish up the removal of the current structures and the transitioning to when construction might start, if depending on where this vote goes tonight, if we can have more attention on that, or if there's some mitigation we can do to prevent that. And I suspect also that it's because nobody's there anymore as they were. There was typically a lot of eyes and foot traffic around, and now there's not as much. So just a heads up on that. And then apparently there's debris being left. I don't know if it's by the removal crew of the structures, but there's debris that are metal brackets and things that have ended up in the alley a couple of times. And the last thing is, will the alley that is that parallels I Street, will that alley be repaved as part of the work that's happening to do this development, which will be getting an alley itself, as I understand? So that's the last question.
So Vito, of course, they're going to remove the debris that the council member was talking about, and then second, Vito can answer the question on the alley. Mr. Kirstenstein, are they going to remove those items?
Yeah, I'll certainly pass that along to the district tomorrow. We're in a little bit of a shaded area because we had anticipated closing escrow and turning all that responsibility over to Mr. Casillas, but that's moved along a little bit based on a number of issues that were being discussed. So between ourselves and Mr. Casillas, I can assure you we'll get it right on that.
Thank you. And Vito, on the alley, are they going to repave that alley, or maybe Tatiana? I'm not sure if she's available.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm looking to my planning manager, Mr. Kolwitz, if we have any information about the paving of the alley as part of this.
Yeah, this is Henry Casillas. I'm the developer. It's my understanding that, yes, Councilman Duran, that we are to go ahead and resurface and repave that portion of the alley. It's my understanding that maybe I think we're like 10 feet above the property line. So we will be working on that alley.
Thank you, Mr. Casillas.
Yes, thank you. Just to confirm, it's that portion of the alley, not the length of the alley, which I think goes all the way down to, it goes pretty far, probably down to Magnolia, I think, several hundred feet.
That's correct, just that portion of the alley.
Thank you very much.
I think north from the street, probably 10 feet if memory serves, but yes.
If I can clarify that, this is Mark DeCecco, the project architect. We're going to be repaving this from the center line of that alley all the way along the length of our property.
Great.
So it's basically half the alley, not the entire alley, only the west side of the alley.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there maybe this is a discussion for another time with our staff, but I'm hoping that there's some way to at least pave the other half of the alley. But I appreciate that, Mr. DeCicco. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Councilman. So I'm looking for a motion to approve this item. Councilman Perrello?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
With respect to this, can we put the slide up that shows the aerial view of what this proposed development is? So the residents that are potentially watching this, because it looked very few people zoomed into this link to see it. So the people in that area know what's going to be coming to that area. Can we put that up, please?
Do we have no review on that?
And the question that I have with respect to the alley that will be inside the development, that is going to be a private alley. Will that be an alley that is concrete or will it be asphalt? If it is asphalt, will it have a concrete gutter? Because looking at the presentation, it looks like the trash will be coming out at the alley side and the things, the weight of garbage truck is what tears up the alley. And that alley will not have a straight shot. It's got to have a curve. And where the curves are is where the heavy weight of the trucks tear things up. The egress or the egress coming in or coming out. And so I know that when people sign the dotted line, it says it's going to be a private alley and they are responsible for it. I would just like to make sure when the city approves this, they give them the best chance at having a long living alley. Concrete would be the best. Second best would be asphalt with a concrete gutter in it. And so I'm wondering what the answer to that question is.
And do we have?
And I can go along with my next, so you can answer them all at the same time.
Okay.
In that neighborhood, there are 2-story homes. And at the issue, one of the things that's always bothered me is these bonus densities. We're cramming more sardines than the can will hold, bonus densities, but that's the law. And we live within the law. Why was not a consideration of the other project that Mr. Casillas has put together, I believe on 8th Street, they're 2-story. Why were these not 2-story units? Those are my questions.
So thank you, Councilman Perrello, for those questions. And Mark, my architect, can certainly correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding, if memory serves, that the alley will indeed be concrete. The center ribbon of the alley is going to be a porous material, some type of paver to make it permeable, so that any rainwater runoff is actually mitigated and replenishes the water table. So it's my understanding that the alley will be concrete. The reason that we did not go with a 2-story product for that specific site was we looked at the character of the properties, adjacent to us, and we felt that because of the higher density, that it would be easier and more acceptable to have a 2-story product. Also, we felt as developers that there really isn't as much single-story product available. So we have a lot of seniors in our city who would benefit from having a single story. I have a 2-story, and I'm getting close to 60 now, and it's getting a little bit more difficult to get up and downstairs. So that was one of the reasons. The other reason too was just simply cost. We wanted to have a product that was more accessible to the community, and by making a smaller, more efficient unit, we're driving the density down, and we're creating more affordability and more efficiency.
Thank you very much. It's very pleased to hear your response about the permeability of the center part of the alley. That's smart thinking. Whoever's idea that was, heads up, good thumbs up. The second thing that I have, and I need to disclose it, I, along with another council member, sit on the Oxnard Airport Authority, and this is just outside of that issue. We had a member of public comment tonight on Teal Club asking questions about that. These things come up with respect to the proximity to the airport, because I am aware of the airplane that hit the backstop in Campus Park. I got to see it, and I was involved in trying to get the backstop taken down so it didn't leave a thumbprint. But that's all I have. Thank you very much. Thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you so much. And I think that project is right outside the zone, the landing zone. It's right, I think, just north of 2nd Street.
Yeah.
That is
Uh,
correct.
Mr. Mayor, if I can add to that, there is, if you look on the site in what is the southwest corner, there is an area designated as an RPZ zone, and that's an area, we did vet this through the airport authority.
Right.
And so that particular area, we are not building on specifically at the direction of the airport authority.
Great, thank you.
Mayor, may I respond to that, please?
Go ahead.
I think you need to put all the cards on the table. We've had a gentleman speak at public comment with respect to the Teal Club project, and he talked about plane crashes. The airport authority, they do have their zones. The mayor served on the airport authority.
That's right.
Councilman Lopez served on the airport authority, serves on the airport authority, and I do. And they talk about various things. The backstop that I'm talking about is right off the curb of 2nd Street, right across the street from where these homes are going to be built. He, I believe, crashed outside of the area. So in the future, when somebody goes into this house, and then they bring it up and they have complaints about the airport and they want the airport to go away, I just want you to be aware, the developer, the council, the legal staff, the management of the city, and the public, that there is a history that things have happened there. And we cannot hold our heads in the sand and act as it's not, and then act as if, oh my God, something happened that nobody told me about. That's all I'm bringing it up, so that nobody can go home and say, I didn't know and nobody told me. I know, and I'm telling you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Councilmember, Mr. Casillas, I think is in your disclosures, it's extremely important that you divulge that in your disclosures, when people buy their property there.
That is correct, Mayor, that we will be disclosing that. In fact, everybody who purchases one of our homes gets a lot line disclosure, sort of, tell them exactly what their lot lines are. But we will be disclosing that generally as a disclosure, to these potential buyers. So
Thank you.
we want everybody to completely understand that, there's risk when we walk out of our house every day, but there's risk when you're living next to an airport. So everybody should understand what they're buying.
Thank you, Mr. Casillas. Councilmember Turan.
Thank you, Mayor. I think Mr. Colwitz had his hand up first. I think he has something he wants to add.
Councilmember Turan, thank you. And Mayor Zaragoza, very briefly, I just wanted to point out that as part of the map conditions, condition 54 in particular, it does require notification to property owners that they are living next to the airport. And for 2 of the properties in particular, it talks about notification for that area where they're not allowed to build. So there is built-in notification on the deeds of the property themselves.
Thank you for the disclosures. Councilman Turan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just 2 really quick things. The first thing is something that had come up prior to me being appointed to City Council. When Mr. Casillas presented this to our neighborhood, one of the concerns was around parking. And it seems to me in subsequent conversations with folks who live in the area that they've more or less feel alleviated on what the plan is for parking and how that's going to be addressed. But I'm hoping Mr. Casillas would talk a little bit about parking and how the square footage of the homes and the lot size was intentionally done in a way that would discourage multiple families living in these homes, and really looking for a particular type of customer or buyer who'd be searching for this size home and this layout for parking. Would you touch on parking a little bit, Mr. Casillas?
Sure. So just like in any project, there is on-street parking that's available. That would be on Second Street, on K Street, I think, and on First Street. But our garages were designed in a certain way. A typical garage is 20 by 20. Our garage is 22 by 22, so it's a little bit larger. What we did, and the setback between our house and the garage is roughly, and my architect Mark can correct me if I'm wrong on this, is roughly about 10 feet. But what we did in order to maximize space and in order to be more efficient and create a flexible space, we actually garage doors, one on the alley side and one at the rear setback. So if there's a festivity or something happening, you can literally open up, your garage door, and now you have an extra, large space that you can use. Also, the size of the homes being at 1150 and 1200 really are meant for entry-level families, mom, dad, 2 kids maybe, or mom, dad, and grandma and grandpa, or for seniors who are coming in. So that was the sort of strategy, is to try to keep the units small and efficient. That way we focus on trying to have, starter families coming in, and providing the 2-car garage that's a little bit bigger. And that will allow for more storage along the sides of the garage, and will actually make the usable garage. And at the same time, a flexible space that the family can use if there's a large gathering or an event or something like that.
Great, thank you. And my last question, it's something that just came up now. And on slide 11 of the PowerPoint, page 275 of the staff packet, there's a mention there of the street trees and the front canopy trees and upright accent trees. And I'd just like to put out there for Mr. Casillas, just last week at the Public Works Committee, there was a really informative presentation about the trees in our city, and how some of them are well equipped for our particular climate and our area, where others were not. And I'm just hoping that that consideration can be taken for the trees that may be selected for this project, to make sure that in the larger scheme of things, that these are trees that will have longevity, but also are appropriate for the area, so that 20 years from now, 25 years from now, they're not dying from drought or wherever climate change takes us, or that they're uplifting sidewalks or whatever the case may be. So just wanted to throw that out there. It's something that I connected dots on right now. So thank you.
And that's an excellent point, because we talked about our trees, and had trees that do not, the roots come up, the trees that are potentially going to help us not have a problem in the next 10, 15, 20 years. Excellent point. So council members, at this time, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
I'll move the recommended action, Mayor.
Okay, Councilor Turan, we need a second. And
Second.
Okay, second by Councilman Lopez, and of course, and Mayor Pro Tem is going to recuse himself on this item. So roll call.
Councilmember Turan,
Yes.
Councilmember Basua,
Aye.
Mayor Zaragoza,
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Madrigal,
Aye.
Councilmember Perillo.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 6-1.
Thank you. Our next item is item E1 reports, and this is Public Works Department. And the
Mr. Mayor,
subject
we're
is.
going to make a quick correction here.
Just for clarification, the one was an abstention because of the recusal of Mayor Pro
Right.
Tem McDonald.
There was a recusal, right? So that Mayor Pro Tem had to recuse himself from it. So it was approved by 6-0 with one abstention. Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to thank you and the City Council for this approval tonight. We're very excited to try to bring this project to fruition, just like we did with our Heritage Homes project. Take a lot of pride in the product that we build, and we're, as a lifelong resident, born and raised here, I'm very excited to see the project move forward. I will say that during the process of entitlement, we have found some, what I consider to be weaknesses in the inclusionary housing ordinance. We've been working very diligently with the housing department and with the planning department, sort of address those issues and see what we can do moving forward. As a developer, I'm also working with 3 other developers who are concerned about the direction of the inclusionary housing ordinance and the issues it may bring up for further inclusionary housing. But that is hopefully something that we can address and work through as the process continues, not only for us, but for other projects that are pending and actually moving forward now. But thank you all very much for the opportunity. We look forward to building a product that we all can be proud of.
And the school board also, with Dr. McCoy, does thank staff for what has been a 3-year public land transaction. So they're looking forward to closing escrow as well.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kirstenstein and Mr. Casillas. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thank you. Mhm. Okay, our next item again is item K1. Public Works Department's budget appropriation for the irrigation repairs. And the recommendation of the City Council approve and authorize a budget appropriation in the amount of $400,000 from the general fund, available fund balance to the Parks Division for the use of citywide irrigation repairs. And this, again, required under Measure M, was a pre-recorded presentation. But before we continue, we do have a speaker on this item, and this is Mr. Douglas Partello. Douglas Partello, 3 minutes.
Mr.
Hi, can you
Portillo?
hear me?
Yes, sir,
Yes.
we can. Thank you. You have 3 minutes to speak. Go ahead.
Yes, hi, good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, staff, and public. I'm very gratified that some money is finally gonna go to repairing and improving the irrigation system. For the last year and a half, I've been out volunteering, doing landscape maintenance in my neighborhood and other areas, and it's been a topic that I brought up in numerous occasions, that if those plants don't get any water, they're just not gonna survive. So I did have a couple questions in regards to that. I saw the presentation and there was nothing very specific about the GIS map or when and where those repairs are going to happen. So I had some specific questions about the use of the 400,000 plus the 160,000 that's still there available for this, and how that also is going to get coordinated with efforts to replace plants. And we've had quite an issue in terms of deferred maintenance. And we have a lot of sick plants out there. We have issues of climate change and the types of plants, and how this repair effort is going to tie in with those other broader efforts to deal with the plants that we have in public spaces for Oxnard, because that's a concern I have too, because if we fix the irrigation, but then what about the plants to go with that as well? So I have a question, but I'm very gratified to see Garcia's has been out on Doris and Patterson regularly now, unplugging sprinkler heads and doing some efforts to get those up and running. And I'm very glad to see that. I really encourage more funds to go towards some of this deferred service and maintenance of what is our quality of life. As our public landscaping in Oxnard had a wonderful plan back in '86, but it's gone down since about '98 in terms of maintenance of that with our parks, our public space areas, our medians. So I'm very gratified to see that we're getting some effort toward that, but how it's going to tie in to the bigger picture, so to speak. So thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, Mr. Portello. I'm sure that Mr. Wolf can contact you and give you that information that you rightly deserve. Thank you so much. Any other speakers on this item, Madam Chair?
Mayor, we do not have additional speakers at this time. However, I will start the 3-minute timer.
Thank you so much. Council members, any questions on this item? Councilman Perrello?
If there is someone that can take a shot at addressing Mr. Portello's questions, I'd appreciate hearing those answers. But I would just like to also say, I appreciate the work Mr. Portello has done around the Cabrillo neighborhood. He's done quite a bit of work, but there's other areas in the city of Oxnard, the neighborhood pride, Mr. Booz, Mr. Mercurio, and all the volunteers from the organizations that have helped him have been in a tremendous amount of work, and they have been pushing for the same things that Mr. Portello was talking about. So if there is some idea that we could give Mr. Portello and anybody else that is involved in volunteering to help clean up the city, I'm very interested in hearing it, because automatically, when you're in a drought, you're not worried about planting plants. That's common sense. But if you're going to plant plants, you better have an irrigation system that works. So you better know if the irrigation system works. And before you plant the plants, you better make sure the ground is ready to accept the plants. You don't go, I mean, common sense is going to be the driver here.
So
But,
Michael,
anybody that could answer, I would appreciate it. I think the speaker deserves an answer.
Michael Wolf can probably answer, or maybe his staff, and then we'll go to Tehran.
Yes,
So Michael,
Mr. Mayor, very quickly,
Oh, okay.
Councilmember, Mr. Wolf can address some of those issues. Just to be clear, though, there are several issues layered in Mr. Portello's comments and questions, and some of them actually went through the Public Works Committee recently, as Councilmember Tehran alluded to earlier. That will come to the full council soon. It's a
That's right.
separate discussion. Tonight, I'd like to stick with the irrigation issue that's agendized. I understand they're related, but we do have a full report on tree planting and so on coming very soon. Thank you.
So, Mr. Wolf?
Good evening, Mayor, again, Mayor Pro Tem and Council members, Michael Wolf, Director of Public Works. So we do have quite a bit of deferred maintenance. So we're trying to take kind of the first steps, or the baby steps, if you will, to just address kind of the basics in terms of we don't want to be water wasters with irrigation that is broken or having runoff into the street. So we have lots of places in the city, lots of medians. I mean, we could start just about anywhere, I would imagine, but our staff does and has put together a GIS-based inventory of locations and triage them based on their assessment in terms of places that may be the most in need of repairs, just from a water waste standpoint. So we do have that. They are starting on the Patterson and Doris, that area, and then systematically they'll work through that triage of locations. And we're certainly willing to sit down with the speaker and go over that in detail, but it's really, we could just start just about anywhere in the city, as everybody can imagine, just about because of the deferred maintenance. So our focus really is not on the new plantings, if you will, and as the city manager mentioned, we'll talk in more detail about that later. Ours is really about just making sure we have some functioning irrigation, so that the next item that we'll hear tonight, which is about drought, we want to make sure we're not the worst offenders of that.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Councilmember Perrello, you're okay with that?
I'd like just to follow up. In this irrigation, are we at least considering the work that's going to be done for this irrigation with private contractors, or are we going to be bringing more in-house, or are we going to be hiring more people? We want to get the biggest bang for the buck. Do we have knowledge of that, city manager?
We're going to contract, aren't we?
That's for Mr. Wolf to answer.
Mr. Wolf?
Yeah, so the initial surge and the bulk of the work that needs to happen right now is that initial investment is best served with a broad brush in terms of the contractor. We can assign them, they're not pulled away for other emergencies and requests. So that initial surge and that getting back to the basics is really going to be the contractor and that assistance with us. We still have our in-house staff that can do that. And I think over time, we want to make sure we still have that capability in-house for that flexibility. But, we just need to get it back to the building blocks. And so that initial surge is going to be done mostly by the contractor.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful. Thank you again. Thank you, Mr. Wolf.
Thank you, Councilman Tehran.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate that explanation, Mr. Wolf. Getting back to bare basics, taking care of this deferred maintenance first, and then moving up from there. On your car, you want to fix the engine before you paint it, right? So thank you for that. As a question I have, you mentioned this is an initial investment. This initial amount we're looking at appropriating tonight towards this, would we look at that being, this is kind of the first big push on this, and then in subsequent fiscal years it may be less? Or do we anticipate this will be about what we're looking at over the next fiscal year or two to get us back to where we need to be because everything was deferred for so long?
So part of that answer is we needed to look at an initial surge. And so what we did is we just took 6 months, averaged out 6 to 8 contractors for 8 hours a day. So that initial dollar amount is based on kind of a time and material approach. It really is not going to be a percentage of the overall irrigation system. We wanted to get it started from that perspective because we could do an assessment and spend a lot of time and money doing that, but I thought that would be not our best approach. We wanted to try to spend most of that money in the ground, if you will, in the irrigation. So for our purposes, this was to get us through the 6-month period, allow us to take an assessment based on what we're seeing in that 6-month time frame. I'm going to imagine that we're going to see about $400,000 to $800,000 a year of investments over the next couple years to get us back to the basics. We have miles and miles of irrigation lines and sprinkler heads and valves and controllers, things like that. So I don't see this going down below $400,000 a year, but it really is right now currently just an estimate.
Understood. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Those are all my questions, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Wolf, for the explanation. Thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, council members, the recommendation is this to approve the authorization for $400,000 from the general fund available for fund balance for the parks for the use of citywide irrigation repairs. Do we have a motion on this item?
Move the
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem first, and we
I'll
need a
second it.
second. Second, I'm sorry, who was it? Perrello, second, roll call.
Councilmember Basua,
Ms. Basua, you muted. Oh, she's gone.
Councilmember Basua,
You muted.
Councilmember Madrigal,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem McDonald,
Aye.
Councilmember Turan,
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Perrello,
Yes.
Mayor Zaragoza,
Yes.
Councilmember Basua. May I please have your
Aye.
vote? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Our last item is the Public Works Department. This is an update on drought condition report. Oh, you're gonna, okay, and of course, this is the to approve the city stay in stage 2 water shortage condition pursuant to City Council Resolution number 14741, and provide feedback on water conservation outreach, education, and enforcement plan. And 3, provide a feedback and potential new resolution with the appropriate water shortage stage and conservation measures should a 0 allocation be finalized in spring 2022. And the clock. So who's up there?
I'd like to make a quick introduction to this item, but we can also start the clock to have people call in if they have any comments, please.
The 3-minute rule, okay.
So very quickly, we've had this item come through Public Works, but for tonight, I wanted to add a few pieces of information. Some of us attended a statewide seminar back in November, and we had a presentation from the State Water Board as well as CAL FIRE. So I just want to share a couple of quick pieces of information that's important because after the recent rains we had, I've heard comments that people think the drought is over, and I just want to make it clear to everyone it's far from over. So this map right here, again, this is information provided by the State Water Board, is a map displaying all the major lakes and reservoirs throughout California and displaying how low the water table is at each of these. So here's an example of Lake Shasta. Each of these, you'll see there's a red line that shows what the average is supposed to be, and the blue shows you as of November where the water level actually is. So I know this map is busy, but if you go around the state, you can see at every, well, this one, Lake Paris seems to be a little bit okay. Millerton seems okay, but the rest of them, as you can see, water levels are exceedingly low. So that's an important piece of information. This was also really important. According to the State Water Board, the community water systems, these are the very small districts that provide water for the community around the state. There are approximately 3,000 of these community water systems and school systems. If you look at this map, you can see all those dots represent all the systems, and the dots that are actually in the shape of a star represents those small systems that currently have violations of drinking water standards. And again, according to the State Water Board, 90% of the small water systems that have violations serve less than 500 connections. And I want to raise that because we have a few such small water systems here within our city boundaries. And at some point, my concern is the state will tell us that we have to take care of them. So it's a dilemma that we believe is in front of us. We just need to be prepared to contend with it if and when that happens. The other slides that were important and it's related to our drought condition. This is from CAL FIRE. See here a few of these amazing statistics. 9 of the 20 largest fires in state history occurred within the last 2 years, meaning 2020 and 21. And 14 of those 20 largest fires in California occurred over the last 10 years. And 14 of those 20, the most destructive of those fires, also occurred in the last 10 years, destroying over 43,000 structures, or an estimated $17 billion in property damage. And another stat with regard to how much land, this is just from 2021, and this was as of November, so it didn't count for anything that happened in December. But last year, there were over 8,300 wildfires in the state, covering over 2.5 million acres of California land that was burned, and destroying 3,200 structures. So just some important statistics, recent statistics to keep in mind as we discuss drought and drought conditions that affect both our drinking water supply as well as fires up and down the state. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Wolf.
Okay, Michael.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. If there's any explicit questions, we certainly can talk about them, but I wanted to thank the City Manager for putting that in perspective. And we're certainly, staff is available to answer any questions council members may have right now.
Council members, any questions of staff at this time? Okay, Councilman Perrella.
Thank you. I appreciated this when it came to Public Works, and I appreciate it again here. There have been assumptions for the past several years. It would simply be a matter of generating new water, quote, new water for development and everything else, to pump the storm drains into the sewer plant. So the sewer plant can, especially the city of Oxnard sewer plant, the sewer plant can treat the storm water from the storm drains as they treat the sewer water. My understanding is, and if we need to bring this back to a future item, I'd appreciate it, but I think we need to let the public give them a heads up. The types of treatment that stormwater drainage needs is much different than the type of treatment that comes out of a sewer plant. Would our plant be able to treat both of them? Or do we need another plant? Or is it simply a matter of a slight modification, a low dollar modification? Or is this a huge big ticket item that we may have been having our heads in, having our head in the sand, listening to the simple solution is just put the storm drains water into the sewer plant. We'll make it all pure water and we'll be in high cotton. Can you help me out there, Mr. Wolf?
So I'll not address the chemistry side of the house, so that's not my expertise, but just looking at it from a pure logistics standpoint, we're talking about quite a bit of infrastructure that would be even necessary just to pipe it, because they obviously don't run in the same direction, and they don't run in parallel and go to the wastewater treatment plant. And also thinking about the volume of water that we would see. I mean, the wastewater treatment plant is set up to take in volumes of water in a certain fashion. That is not how rain rain occurs. And so we're talking about some major infrastructure improvements, even if the chemistry does work out. That is some huge investment in infrastructure for that change.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Councilmember Dragon. Oscar.
Yes, thank you. Sorry about that. Real quickly, I know I said this last time this particular item came up a few months ago, and then I went through and, this just came out. Can't see it, but it's the 2021 State of the Region report. It does talk about water usage, not only in the city of Oxnard, but all throughout the area of Ventura County. Some of the same maps that were shown on the staff report are also in this booklet here. But to me, the one that I look at the most is water use by region. And then, you have someone here per capita per day in gallons. You do have the city of Oxnard who uses per resident about, 56 gallons per day. And then, which is actually the second lowest in the entire county, right next to residents of Port Hueneme. But then you have Westlake Village, which uses 4 times more water per capita than we do. They use 237 gallons per capita. So to me and any resident, just using common sense, how is this fair? You have Thousand Oaks, Simi Valley, Oak Park, Casitas, which is Ojai, Oakview, and West Ventura, and Camarillo in the Camarosa area. All those areas use at least 2 times more water per resident than the city of Oxnard residents do. So to me, it's a big issue of equity. I understand water is scarce and we need to save it for future generations, but we do our part and no one else does our part. You can't save what there's none of. And I've said this at other meetings, and unfortunately I didn't have the proof or the source, but I went out and this was sent to us, and it's very frightening to see that for the most part we do our part but our neighbors don't. And how's that fair? Same issue I had with, I completely understand saving, and it's tough for everybody. But again, this question wasn't answered last time by staff, but how would it be fair? We say no one could water their, garden, but yeah, you're gonna have people who live in an HOA who are gonna have to, and then you're gonna have regular residents who are getting fined. How would that be fair? So, you're gonna get into those type of issues. And, quite frankly, I don't think that's fair. And, just using basic common sense, you're going to have a huge backlash towards this. I completely understand that we need to save, but we all need to do our part. If, 2 people do their part, but the other 8 don't, then, they're just going to be going in circles, similar to actually what's kind of going on with the pandemic right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Okay, Councilmember.
Mr. Mayor, if I can quickly.
Go ahead, City Manager.
Yes, Councilmember Madrigal, I totally agree with you about the disparity across communities, but unfortunately, we don't have jurisdiction outside of here. Now, I did ask staff to make sure that we address the HOA question in the staff report. So I'm perusing it now to try to find that. I don't know if anyone on staff recalls what section of the report that's in.
It's in there, Mr. City Manager. It is actually on, it's actually agenda package page 293, and it's maybe the top third. So HOAs are discussed in this staff report, and there's no exclusion for HOAs. So everybody from that perspective, whether you're HOA or a single family or commercial, is treated the same.
Will fines be the same? Because I know from not just city of Oxnard, but other cities where HOAs refuse to adhere to any of the city regulations, not just in this city, but other cities. So, I think that's going to be a huge issue. Last time we were we had a drought, we had the, brown is cool or whatever those signs were, but yet, actually the city itself was very green, and you had other regions that were green, and yet you had poor neighborhoods who were getting fined for watering the grass. So to me, that's like, it looks nice on paper, but I actually want true enforcement or true equality in this aspect.
Currently, right now, Councilmember Madrigal, we're not doing an active enforcement, and the requirements of the stage 2, which the council has approved, is effective for all customers in the city of Oxnard. So there's not a disparity between the customer types, and we're not going out and finding anybody right now. We're taking an approach of education. And to point out to your point, since 2014, the city of Oxnard residents have actually saved 15%. That was the highest water usage in 2014. So I agree with you. We should commend our customers and our residents, because they have been saving that water. And so right now we're currently not going out and finding anybody. We're taking the educational approach right now. And we do follow up, we get a few percentage points of reports that we have to follow up with, but we're getting compliance with just initial contact and education.
Yeah, thank you.
But I do want to make it clear, if we get to the point where we have to enforce, it will be enforced equally across the city. I mean, because that would mean that the states ramped it down even tighter, and everyone, if it becomes a mandate, it's a mandate. I don't care if you live in an HOA or not.
And there's stages for that too.
Yeah, so I would fully agree with the council member. It needs to be enforced equitably across the city.
Thank you, Councilmember Madrigal. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just some general comments. They were predicted at the beginning of this winter that it was going to be a dry winter with very little rainfall. And we were lucky that we've got quite a bit of rainfall so far. But the bad part of that is it all comes at the same time. And when it comes so fast, we lose probably about 95% of it into the ocean because we're so close to the ocean. To capture it all and allow it to soak in is a challenge, with the exception of Freeman Diversion, which takes some of that water off the Santa Clara River. But there are other things that people can do to help benefit. And I know I do it, and I'm sure a lot of people in the city do, because we're seeing the numbers. Collection programs for rain spouts are a good thing. I turn my sprinklers off when I know it's going to rain. They've been off for about 2 weeks now. And that has cut down my usage quite a bit. I know a lot of other folks do that too, but really for water replenishment, we rely on the snowpack in the Sierras to filter down through the lakes and the tributaries and all that. That's where we benefit. And so at this point, the snowpack seems to be doing pretty well, but we also have to remember that it's taken us 10 years to get into this position. You're not going to get out of it in 1 year. It's probably going to take 10 years to get out of it if we're lucky. So in regards to this proposal, I don't see any other thing that we can do but stay with the current conditions that we're under, and also stay with this current regulations that we're utilizing to try and conserve water as much as possible. And I appreciate the community for being good stewards of the water and saving as much as they can. And I agree with Councilmember Madrigal. We need to figure out some way to get our fellow communities to stand up and be responsible also. But I think, unfortunately, that's going to be out of our hands. But, I would support this item. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Staff member, Councilmember Perrello, and we have the young lady, Megan.
Yeah. Yes, I also appreciate the comments Councilman Madrigal made and the city manager. I do not support finding one person differently than if we find another person. If there's going to be, put it very bluntly, if we're in the middle of the ocean and 3 people are working and rowing the boat and one decides to stop, in real world life, one guy ends up in the water and the other 2 guys keep rowing. So we're all in the same boat. If we can, I'd like to have the deputy city manager address what's going on with respect to possibly people not realizing how much of a issue is going on with the basin that we draw a tremendous amount of our water from. The GMA, the Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Basin. If city manager, if we can do that, Ms. Klima is one of the sharpest tacks on the box representing the city in that area. As a matter of fact, I think in the entire cities of all of the cities that are being represented on that GMA board. I think we do well to listen to what she's got to say.
Sarah, you want to respond to that, and then we'll go to Megan. Go ahead.
Thank you, council member. You know, we have a groundwater problem as well. It is a separate problem than the drought, of course, but it is also a water problem. And I think, you know, our basin is very low. There is simply not enough groundwater right now to continue pumping, not just in the city of Oxnard, but in the full Oxnard Basin and the Pleasant Valley Basin, and which is our whole region. And so there's that is an additional problem, and it exacerbates the drought problem. I think that we are making tremendous efforts to work together to try to find new water, which is essentially get recycled water and so forth. But for the reasons that Mr. Wolf explained, it's complicated. There's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be put in place. It takes a lot of coordination across the region, which we haven't done in the past, and we haven't done it well. And there's a lot to be done there. But you're right, the basin is also a huge problem, and we'll be coming back with another staff report to talk more about that, so that you all have a good understanding, the public has a good understanding of what that problem entails.
Thank you. Okay. I know that Michael Wolf mentioned up at the city of Oxnard, historically, our people have really received our educational approach here in the city of Oxnard. And if you look at slide 8, it talks about it the last 12 months, 11 of 118 wastewater reports required, only 11 required follow-up. And one thing that our public works director mentioned, that overall, we have a reduction of 15% of water usage here in Oxnard. So I believe that education and enforcement process is really working here under phase 1. So I think that we're doing great here in the city of Oxnard with our drought, and our people are following the rules that really help us tremendously.
Mr. Mayor, I know Ms. Schneider had her hand up. I want to make sure.
Who is it?
Megan Schneider?
Hi, yes.
Megan, I'm sorry.
Oh, hi, I'm Megan Schneider, Water Conservation and Outreach Supervisor with the Water Division. I did want to address Councilmember Madrigal's comment on other communities doing their part. And I did want to say that there is somewhat new legislation, which is SB 606 and AB 1668, making water conservation a California way of life, that is in the works, and it will require all water suppliers in cities to reach specific water use targets within their area. And so all these different water suppliers will have to meet these targets and do their part in terms of conserving water. And because, Oxnard community has been, very water wise and thrifty and good at conserving water, that just puts us in a better position for when the state does come out with this framework and requirements.
Thank you. Councilman Turan and Perrella, followed by Turan, followed by.
Thank you, Mayor. I think a lot of the points that have been made are really important points. Just as a quick question along the lines of this item, if we're looking at continued conservation efforts, Mr. Wolf or other staff, can we share with the public, do we still have landscape transformation rebate programs and low flow water apparatus and device rebate programs that folks can change over to new sprinkler heads or permeable but low to no water usage landscaping that they would get a rebate on for doing that work?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Tron, for your question. The City of Oxnard residents they can apply through rebates through bewaterwise.com. And currently there is a $3 per square foot rebate for turf removal and replacement with WaterWise plans. And then as well through BeWaterWise, there's rebates available for low flow toilets, water efficient sprinkler nozzles. So Oxnard residents can take advantage of those rebates.
Great, thank you for that, Ms. Schneider. And I mean, I'll just say that an important distinction there isn't pave over your yard with cement and you'll get a rebate. This is landscape changing to low water or no water type of landscaping. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Great, thank you very much. Those are my comments and questions, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Perrella?
Yes, maybe we can have staff address this issue. In the past, and tonight, apparently he's not able to address. Lawrence Paul Stein is always asked about gray water. What are the systems that we have with respect to allowing residents to use their shower and their laundry to water the plants in the midst of droughts that we've had in the past? And we know the county has offered these programs. I don't know if they still do. But one of the problems in Oxnard is we use all the water that is used, showers, washing, goes into our goes into our sewer plant and then down to the sewer plant, and we make recycled water. So if we cheated on the homeowner side to water the plants, we're going to short us on the reclaimed water. Is there a policy the city has, or are they going to be looking at that in a different light? That's one question. Second question, a lot of ideas come out of the blue and a lot of ideas come out of thin air, and some are rational, some are not. But one that has come up multiple times is desalinization. Being that Oxnard is right on the coast and the ocean is right here, in the future, there may be something like that. At the present time, it's extremely power hungry process. One of the ideas that is coming up that is used in other countries are micro nuclear power plants to power desalinization. And one individual has reached out to me that the Mandalay power plant already in place, perfect site for a micro nuclear power plant. I don't know that it would go over big with the residents or the Coastal Commission, but there's an opportunity on this kind of a discussion where everybody's on board listening and our feet to the fire because of a drought where we think about these things. That's why I'm sharing those two ideas. But on the gray water, I think it's something that the residents of Oxnard deserve an answer, because there will be something that comes up if it gets very bad. No one wants to see the tree that grandpa planted die because we don't have the water for it. They're going to do whatever they can. And if gray water is able to be used, they will do it. It's been done in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, council members, we have 3 items here that recommended. And item number 1 is to approve the city stay in stage 2 water storage condition pursuant to the city council approved resolution 14741. And number 2, provide feedback and water conservation outreach education enforcement plan. And 3, provide feedback on the potential new resolution with appropriate shortage stage and conservation measures should a 0 allocation be finalized in spring of 2022. Those are the 3 recommendations. So do we have an approval on this item? 3 items?
I'll move the recommended action.
Okay, Council Mayor Pro Tem.
I'll second it, but can we get an answer on the gray water, or at least get a commitment that we'll have a discussion in the future?
So, Mr. City Attorney, can we talk about the gray water? Would that be a future item?
That sounds like a focused discussion that would probably want to bring back for
a
more
discussion.
Substantive discussion.
I'm comfortable with that. Thank you, Mayor.
Good point. Okay, there's the first one, Mayor Pro Tem, second by Councilman Perrella. Roll call.
Councilmember Madrigal,
No.
Councilmember Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Turan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem McDonald,
Aye.
Councilmember Basua,
Aye.
Councilmember Perrello,
Yes.
Mayor Zaragoza,
Aye.
Councilmember Madrigal, may I please confirm that your vote was against?
Yes, it was a no.
It was a no. Thank you very much. Motion passes 6-1. Thank you.
Thank you, council members, and that's the last item, so we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.